I'm delighted that you're doing this project, Dark Days project at Cheltenham. I'm really looking forward to it. I wonder if we could begin by talking about what actually inspired you about the book. This is the book by James Baldwin, Dark Days.
James Baldwin is an absolute icon, and his diversity in all sorts of works of life, from being a gay black man from America, grown up in Harlem, to being an international legend, especially when he moved over to Paris and obviously visiting England, and his talks over in Oxford and Cambridge, and with some very political senior lecturers, I would say. But he's admired around the world, and this book is a notepad book. It's just like there's these short stories or short kind of excerpts, and of all his for me, I'm not a big reader, so this just worked for me, because I've read it so many times now, and I always find now I always pick various different things that I latch onto every time I read it. So it was really easy for me to read, and I really enjoyed getting inside it.
Right. And well, the message, I've only read it once, but I remember the message. One of the message was that he's saying to the American people, we're not the problem, you've got a problem, in recognizing history. That I think, was that one of the main messages from the book?
I say a main message. There was a paragraph in there. It was talking about, there was I think he went into a lecture, and then he asked a student, or a student asked him, why are white people against black people? And he ended up not actually lecturing and just speak, and the white students just kind of spoke about themselves, why they thought that the white people didn't like black people. And I guess it's everyone's problem. And I think you got to share that without actually saying that, especially in that lecture, is what I read.
Yeah. So talking about the music, so the music is based on your sort of reflections on the book. How does it reflect the book?
My music, ultimately, it's the words. It's the way I felt he would have delivered them, and listen. I mean, obviously, reading the book is really significant, but watching him perform on YouTube, and how he delivers his pace was really important to me, and I felt I needed to capture that pace as well, as if he was actually telling the story, the words. So
right.
I'm hoping that the music.
So you're using his speech patterns, are you?
Yeah, I think so. Right. I'm definitely, I think so. There's a lot of, dare I say it, the hardest part in the band will be for the vocalist, because there's not only just the words, there's rhythmic patterns, and as a rhythm section, we're kind of bubbling behind that. So dare I say, the rhythm section has the easiest role to play, but there'll be directions, and there'll be I mean, I've got 45 excerpts of various paragraphs or various significant lines that really latched onto what I was reading. So it's the hardest part was withering it down for an hour's worth of music for Cheltenham. Right. So that was a really difficult part. And I was actually speaking to Mark Saunders and expressing this really difficult situation. He says, well, maybe you should now do a theatre play on it, and maybe you should get actors and do all of these things, and make it into this. I'm like, oh yeah, Mark, that's a really good idea.
That's something for the future, maybe for the Cheltenham Literature Festival one day, but that's not up to me. So the vocalist is Cleveland Watkins.
It will be this time, yeah. Obviously before the world shut down. It would have been Elaine. Not sure why I chose a female instead of a male, because it's Baldwin, and I was asking a female to do Baldwin's work. But no, yeah, it happens to be Cleveland this time, and Cleveland is
yeah, right. And he will be declaiming some of the passages from extracts from the book.
Yeah. He would only be singing and reciting words from the book.
All right. That sounds really, really interesting. So, excuse me, coughing. So the balance between the composed passages and the improvisation. What's the balance there?
I'm hoping. Well, like I said, I've got so much pieces of work that we're going to rehearse it, and I will figure out what the story will feel like. But ultimately, I've got improvisers in the band, and Mark Saunders and Pat Thomas are absolute icons of improvising music. So I don't want to limit them, but I also know that they are readers as well. So it's getting the balance. And I want to say 50-50, but I also want, I want to say 50-50, but I've got, I mean, a lot of the excerpts are really short. Some of them are 8 bars long. Some of them are 40 bars long, and it's striking that right balance to tell the story. I know how I want to start, and I know how I want to end. Whatever happens in the middle.
So will it be a through piece? Or haven't you decided yet?
We could actually do. I feel like we could do a through piece, but like I said, I've got 45 excerpts, and yeah, so we might just end up playing 7 or 8 of them and developing those ideas.
Right.
In a sense. So we could stop at certain points, and I would like to stop actually and probably explain what I was thinking during this part of
yes.
the piece.
So you'll be talking a bit to the audience about the.
I probably will. I certainly. I did a solo set at Cafe Otto a couple of months ago, and I started singing. Tony.
Oh.
I did a Sun Ra piece called "It's Spring," and I got the audience to sit. Well, the ones that knew it. So I've got the confidence to not chant or not even sing, but just recite some words before. That's the Yeah.
Okay, so talking about the members of the group, the quartet, we've talked a bit about Cleveland Watkis, who's obviously a very fine singer in different styles, in improvisation, in reggae. Yeah. So who are the other members of the quartet? You mentioned them briefly.
Mark Saunders, drummer, and I want to start with Mark Saunders. He's such an icon to me, and he's such a inspiration. He's a teacher, and he would never, when I say all of these things, he would never agree with these things. He's like, Neil, you're amazing. But I'm like, no, Mark, you've taught me so much. And I remember starting to play a little bit of free jazz, and we sat down in the office of the Vortex on one of my first free gigs, and he got me on it actually, and he said it's how much you put, is how much you throw the pebble into the pond is how you start with your free improvisation. And I kind of understood that, but he said if you pick up a big brick and you throw it into the pond, the ripples will be wider. If you throw a little stone into the pond, the ripples will be smaller. And which one do you want to throw in, basically?
Right.
So
yes, I mean, he's a brilliant drummer. I've also learnt a lot from him because we live relatively close to each other, and we talk. We go on walks together. So I've also learnt a lot from him about the music and about sort of human relations. So that's Mark and Cleveland.
Mark. And Pat Thomas. Yes, Pat Thomas plays piano. Again, an icon in British free jazz music, and I'm really honoured to have him on board.
Yeah, and he seems to be getting more recognition. I mean, he was prominent in the Berlin Jazz Festival, or Jazz Fest as they call it, last year. He's really beginning to get the recognition he deserves, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think only recently he went over to Norway to feature on some Norwegian bands' music. I think they were playing the music of Monk, but in Pat Thomas's way, and he had a rhythm section out there that invited him over to do stuff. So that's fantastic that
yeah,
you know, is being recognised.
Yeah. Yes, so it's great to have him at the festival. It'll be for the first time.
For the first time? No, wow.
I think it's the first time Pat's played at the festival. Yes,
Wow.
so that's really good. You talk about Mark introduced you to free improvisation, and you've come sort of, in a sense, relatively late to it in your career. So I just wonder what the influences were that brought you to focusing much more, not exclusively, but much more on free improvisation.
Yeah, well, I started, dare I say it, the whole jazz thing, I started really late anyway, because I was a classical musician. So I actually started playing jazz at 25, and then it was one thing I had to do. I had to learn how to swing. I had to learn how to play changes and work with amazing musicians like Soweto and Abram Wilson. The whole Tomorrow's Warriors thing got me as a jobby jazz musician, and that was the only way I thought that's the only way I thought it would be. And then I got, not say bored, but I thought I knew every 251 in the whole wide world, and I knew I could play that 251 really, really well. So I ended up playing a free solo solo at Ronnie Scott's, and it was complete. I didn't know what it was. It was completely free. I said, I'm not playing any changes, and it was the prime time Ronnie Scott's gig on a Saturday evening, and no, I didn't get a clap. And you know, I started hitting the bass, and I was like, "What is this?" And I think that was my birth of, and alongside other things, I was kind of introduced to Wayne Shorter a little bit, and he was doing the Beyond the Sound Barrier album with Brian Blade, and he was starting to open me up a little bit more. And Jason Yard had Acoustic Boombastic, and there was like no swing in there, and it was really open and really free, and it's something that I wasn't aware of at that point. So yeah, I just ended up becoming, and I was also jealous. I was also jealous about Cafe Otto, because Cafe Otto, Shabaka started going there, and then he introduced me to that, and I was just like, whoa, I didn't know anyone. So and then when I started going over, I was just like, wow, this is a whole different world to Ronnie Scott's. I think this is my lane, as it were. So
right, yes, of course, acoustic or whatever it is, bombastic was premiered. It was a commission from
yeah. I remember that.
It's still going. I don't think he's
after 10 years. Yeah, it is still going.
Not yet recorded, I don't think, is it?
Yeah. No, we've recorded so many times. I don't think he's finalized each take.
Yeah. Yes, right. Looking forward to that. But I mean, you're talking about free improvisation, but the gig at Cheltenham will be a mixture of composition and improvisation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been commissioned to write music in the sense that, you know, this is my interpretation of the book, but I knew that I needed improvisers to elaborate my ideas, and it was only to write. I'm really lucky to play with so many fantastic musicians, and I think I've got the cream of the crop for the set. Sadly, the Americans are not around, and it's such a sad situation. I.e., Nicole Mitchell, who would have been part of the first band, and hopefully still will be, and Tara Middleton from the Sonora Orchestra, who was booked to do the one.
Yeah. Yes. But it's still a great quartet, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a younger, dare I say, just trying to direct three amazing, experienced musicians will be it would be a sight. But I think they respect who I am a little bit, and it'd be interesting to see how they take my compositions.
Yes, I'm sure they respect you. Well, I know they respect you. I mean, just this sort of balance between improvisation and composition. I mean, it seems to me that free jazz or improvised music seems to be going in all sorts of different directions, interesting directions. And one is the mixture of composition and improvisation.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean? What do you mean by composition and free jazz? How is it?
Well, there are composed sections and then free sections. I mean, basically that, you know, as opposed to a totally free thing. I mean, there's lots of totally free improvisation, and we all love that. But then, I mean, some people recognized as improvisers are starting to introduce a certain amount of composition into the free playing, and that seems to be what you're doing here.
Yeah, I think so. I thought a little bit about this last week, actually, when I did a gig with Mark Saunders and Robert Mitchell at Cafe Otto. And Robert Mitchell is not, dare I say, he's not a totally free piano player. But when he was playing, I felt like he played what he knew along with what me and Mark was playing. So me and Mark were completely free. I didn't, you know, but he was very calculated in what he was playing. It was harmony, and it was very, but it worked. But it was like, it's like, are you free now? Are you consciously thinking about what you've practiced? And it did work. So I felt like this, not that I want to take that approach of, here's a composition, here's the 8 bars of what we think it is. And I obviously, when we start rehearsing, it'll be, this is what my interpretation of this section feels like. But if Pat or whoever wanted to take it out and do their own thing, that's their prerogative. For sure.
Yes, well, I heard about that gig with Robert Mitchell, and sounded great. And so we'll have to look into booking that sometime.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, I loved it.
I understand you're engaged in other projects as well as, and you have a role as a hip hop producer, or is that sort of underground?
I'm an electronic producer, and that started from when I had the band ZU with Shabaka Hutchins and Tom Skinner, and obviously Shabaka ended up doing Sons of Kemet, but I couldn't lock them down to get any more rehearsals with them, so I ended up just buying a computer and started developing my ideas that way. And someone said at that time, it's going to take you 10 years to get your sound and get what you want to do. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but suddenly when I started to, 10 years later, I started to, you know, feel a bit more confident. I've managed to sign a deal in an amazing deal from an LA label called Innovative Leisure, and they've signed people like Bad Bad Not Good and some amazing hip hop artists. And so yeah, I feel like it is an AKA. It's not Neil Charles. It's someone that's kind of putting jazz and electronica and hip hop all into one. So it's yeah.
I hope I haven't let the secret out of the bag.
No. There's no. I think it's in the bio. Everyone, you know, whoever knows Ben Mark will know Neil Charles, but Neil Charles, not many people know Neil Charles does something else as well. So.
Yeah, right. Okay. And finally, I just wanted to raise this issue, which an academic, George Mackay, wrote a very interesting article wondering why jazz festivals based on a music which has origins in the Black communities in the United States, why they do not, in a sense, recognize this and recognize the fact that so many cities and towns earned a lot of money originally through slavery and then through the compensation of the slave owners. And I know Cheltenham was certainly one that benefited from the compensation paid to slave traders back in the 19th century. And do you think it's important that jazz festivals recognize this and address this? And are we doing this in a certain way through this project?
I hope this project opens up some other people's thinkings about
Right.
about where the music has come from and who's making it, who's writing it, who feels passionate about it. Yeah, I just think that it's so deep. That's a big question that, you know, the capitalism world has just kind of it's just been a playground for that world. And I don't think that, so jazz is for the poor. For me, that what they wanted jazz to be was for the poor, and keep it suppressed. So I feel like now not just black people are making jazz music, it's the whole
Yeah.
world is playing it. So I think that they should, yeah, I think it's such a big question, Tony, but that we can, you know, I think it's only too right that it should be recognized in that way, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much to say on
Yeah, so I'm sorry, it is a difficult question, but I think that's that's a good answer, and I'm grateful for your comments on it. I think we've done